Oh, yes, we are back. It is Wednesday at 3 o'clock Eastern Time from somewhere in British Columbia. We're not totally sure. The great Jillian A. Brown of Jillian A. Brown Photography. How are you doing?
I am great, thank you. How are you?
Yeah. Good. So you tell me that you need to pull off. You're driving someplace, so you pulled off into some fast food place, but you're not eating there though.
No, no. You like McDonald's usually has the best Wi-Fi. And if you get a coffee when you go in and then you work there, you get free refills.
Oh, that's right.
So there's
Nice,
that. But
nice.
they don't have any Wi-Fi free right now or like open to the
Yeah,
public because of COVID stuff. So
yeah.
uh, yeah, so I'm just on my phone, which is working out okay.
Sure. I know. Yeah, it's good reception. Really good. Where are you heading? Where
Yeah.
are you going?
I'm going to visit my friend who is probably watching.
Oh,
Um, Out at Cultus Lake, and then he's going to come back with me and hang out at my place for the weekend while I dog sit my friend's or new roomie's dog for a
yeah.
few days.
They're at a wedding in San Diego, aren't they?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
are.
I talked to our guy there.
Right. I was like, that's super creepy, but yeah, right. Of course. Yeah.
You're wondering how I knew.
Yeah. I was like, I don't think they posted that anywhere. Um,
Yeah.
that's super funny. Yeah. Exactly.
So Jill's two roommates, husband and wife. He's quite an adventurer. He wants to build. I don't think he might. We're going to have him on a show, so we'll prep a little bit. He wants to build the hotels up in space, and just for kicks, for nothing, something else to do, he does the skeleton, which is people don't know you're on a sled and you're going down head first on the sled. So he's trying. I'm pretty sure he's going to make the team there. So I don't know who else wants to do that
Yeah.
for Canada.
Yeah.
So he's a great guy. He's very interesting. He
Yeah.
actually also is one of his real passions is he wants to be a survivor too. So
His other achievements are pretty crazy, outstanding.
yeah,
That done in his life. So, yeah, that'll be a great show when you guys chat. He's also super like the nicest person and super
yeah,
funny.
yeah. He is.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's got a
same
really
with
good sense of humor.
his
Yeah,
lady Katie. I love having them in my house.
yeah,
The energy is just insane, and we get so much work done because we all kind of run our own businesses and are all really, really driven and very similar. But we
mm,
all also distract each other so much because we feed off of each other's input and we totally appreciate each other's views on things. So
right.
as soon as we walk into a room where another one is, it's immediately like an hour distraction of
Yeah.
conversing about what we're trying to work on and getting feedback or whatever it is. It's so awesome. I love it.
I could see that definitely. He just talking to him, he's got a ton of energy. And again, he's just always wanting to accomplish things. And when he talks about like even like some great idea, like building a hotel in space, he talks about like not I'm going to give it a try. It's like no, I'm going to build a hotel in space. Like it's not
Uh,
like an if he's going to get it done. Yeah,
yeah, this is one of those people that like it seems like when he sets his mind to it,
yeah,
he always achieves it. Like
yeah,
from well, you'll have him on the show, but I mean I could say some of these achievements as the like prelude, but
yeah.
uh
Well, that's okay. Like he's done the Iditarod, isn't it? He's done that, right?
yeah, he did the Iditarod with a dog team, so he had to train for like a year with a
Yeah.
team, which is a huge deal. He's run like the hardest marathon on earth through like the Sahara Desert. He summited Denali. Um, he swam the English Channel.
Wow.
He's like a master sailor. He's a pilot and owns a plane, and they flew across the country to come out here to move here. He started like a solar panel company and sold
Oh.
that. Um,
Huh?
what else? Like there's basically he opened a restaurant that's super successful out in Halifax, and he's like
Oh,
has this amazing restaurant out there. Like
that's cool.
yeah, and then he started an internet company that's also really successful. Like he's crazy. He's just one of
Yeah.
those people that like if he says he's going to do it, he's going to. So right now, him and I have this theory that because of that, he's trying to become 6'4". So
6'4".
yeah, yeah, that's the next goal. He's like to become a billionaire, go to the Olympics, and be 6'4".
6 foot, 6 feet 4 inches tall. Okay. How tall is he now? How
I
tall
don't
is
know,
he?
maybe 6 feet. I don't know.
Oh, so he's gonna grow. He's gonna grow 4 inches. I like it. Okay. Yeah. Just because it hasn't been done before doesn't mean it can't be done. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Hey,
I
yeah.
agree.
You
Definitely.
believe enough, you can achieve anything.
Yep. I agree. 6'4". I'm going to laugh about that with him. So we're going to have him on. I know you guys are getting interested in this guy already. He's fantastic. We're going to have him on next week. How do you say his last name? Fuqua? Is that how you say the last name? Brad Fuqua?
Farquhar? I don't know.
Farquhar. Yeah.
I for sure say it wrong. I'm sorry, Bradley.
Yeah. I'm sure it is Farquhar. Yeah. He's good. So we'll have him on. And what does his wife do?
So Katie, she started her own charity called Way, and it stands for We Are Young, and they grant wishes of seniors. So there's Make a Wish Foundation for like terminally ill children, but there's nothing that gives back to seniors when they generally seniors nowadays are at that point in that generation where they've given their whole life to everyone around them, like work hard for your kids and for your grandkids, and it wasn't about that generation going after dreams so much. So a lot of them have so many unfulfilled goals and dreams, so this organization raises funds to create these dreams, big or small. So sometimes it's like simply drive a Zamboni, um, and other times it's like they just took two seniors, and by seniors I mean like those that are like in their 90s, like could be passing away soon, often have like a timeline potential, like actually a timeline filled out of potential like death kind of thing. Like it's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So they just sent two to Sable Island, out on the East Coast, which is a huge trip, like pretty incredible. Yeah,
Huh,
it's
that's
it's
cool. That's
amazing.
very cool. That's
Yeah,
good.
really.
So your guy now, he used to be my guy, Barry Shelley. Okay, so you got to see this series of. So okay, first of all, she's on, and then okay, hold on. Now, here we go. Then oh yeah, you're on also, Tom. Thank you. That's really nice. All right, here we go. Always great watching the show. Don't think everyone's serious. So I've been replaced. Obviously, that's fine. I'll find somebody else, Barry. That's right. I'll find other friends. Don't worry about it.
Well, at least I plan to never start my own podcast, so you'll always
Yeah,
have
that's
that.
true. You will. You will, though. You should have your own podcast, but
Yeah,
you do this. Well, you do this one with me. That's good.
I got a few other things that
Yeah. No kidding.
on.
So you posted online there. You're commissioned to do artwork. Really interesting the way you do. Like you're pretty cool. Like sending in the pictures as you go along as you're drawing the pictures. What do you call it? Like you're drawing with it's on the whiteboard with. Is that pencil you're using, or what are you doing with?
Yeah, just a simple pencil.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I use different like lead
Yeah.
for them, but it's just graphite pencil. My
Yeah.
favorite type is like classic school HB, the yellow pencils.
Yeah.
They're my favorite, honestly. It's super weird.
Oh.
But yeah, just those are pencils, and then I have a couple painting commissions for conservation organization has asked me to do some work that's going to be put on some paddles to
Oh.
raise funds and awareness to shoreline cleanup and conservation off Vancouver Island. So
Right.
I'm really excited about that. We've already, the woman who approached me, Amber, also an incredible human being, who's done some pretty badass stuff. She already approached the paddle company with the idea that I came up with for the paintings, and they're all on board. So
Huh.
pretty excited for that one.
Very cool. Very cool. Nice.
Yeah.
I like it.
Whether,
And how you're back? So we had the whole escapade or episode, I should say, with the vehicle. You started, so it all worked out well. She started off, had to get a vehicle she really didn't want that much, Jill, and then that vehicle didn't work out too well, and ended up getting back in the Jeep that you want to be in, anyways, right?
Yeah, it was a bit of a, excuse my language, shit show. That's for sure.
Yeah.
My favorite, my Jeep, the past couple of years has gone through the ringer, and yeah, being with somebody who wasn't super supportive in that way, I guess, or helpful. With it, ended up having to, when it finally broke down at my partner's place, I had to pay somebody $350 to drive me home rather than my partner just giving me a ride home.
Oh,
And then I had to I wasn't allowed back till I found my own vehicle or found another vehicle. So it was a bit of a like panic because we run our business, or at the time we were running our charity or nonprofit, and basically business
mhm.
out of that place. So I had to get a vehicle to be able to do
Yeah.
the work. Yeah, so I kind of had to just settle with what was available in the small town, which is growing fast, which ended up being like a Ford, which wasn't super excited about, but I had to go with it and borrow money for this vehicle that I wasn't super stoked on. And a month later, it blew up. So
That was on your way back from Race Rock too, right?
yeah, the day after.
All right, we got somebody here that wants to commission you. We have a hard time announcing this back there, so he wants to do a drawing of Tom and Larry Melnick.
That one, okay, but that's gonna be like double the price.
Exactly. Oh. And so when you commission, someone usually like send you a picture, and then you just work off the picture, or what?
Yeah, or sometimes they'll send a few if they want like family all in one photo. So they'll send a bunch of different photos and I'll kind of amalgamate them into one. Yeah, but yeah, it's generally they send a photo of like their dog or whatever it may be that they want turned into art. It's so funny though, like it's something so personal and such a beautiful gift, and people aren't willing generally or don't think of it as this like amazing thing. So it's really hard to market and get people on board until they actually receive one. They don't realize, and yet they're willing to go and put crappy artwork from Walmart that has no significance to them on their walls. Like I don't understand. Invest.
Here's a good example from our boy Barry. Hold on. So obviously you know this, but he commissioned me to draw a picture of our beagle that my wife and I had when we first married last year. Wow, that is romantic. That's unbelievable. That's great.
I wasn't going to say anything Barry, because I didn't know.
No,
I didn't know if I could go, so I hadn't said anything. Yeah, he commissioned me to do one, so he's next, second.
Good. That's very cool. That's a great idea. Did you come up with that idea, or was that Barry's idea?
I've been doing art commission since I was a teenager. Teachers would actually hire me and buy my work when I was in junior high. Because it was my thing. And then high school, I got a bunch. But when I moved out to BC, I didn't do much art and nobody knew me as an artist. They kind of knew me as a photographer. But I also didn't know anyone. So it was really hard to break into either of those markets. So I focused on photography. Albeit I ended up being an art teacher out in BC, but I still wasn't getting any sort of like work with my art through that. But I was teaching.
Some people just have no feelings whatsoever. How about a photo of Tom with hair? That's just wrong. That's wrong. That is wrong. It's just I can't believe it, Bill. I can't believe it.
We could just take that photo. We could just take a photo of Tom right now and go through like the Google Add Hair app. You know, you can test out.
Oh, that's true too.
Styles.
Hold on. Here's a picture with hair. Hold on.
Oh yeah.
There.
I've seen a couple. You had hair in that video. I've seen a few. You had hair in the prank video, didn't you?
Yeah. I had the whole mullet going, a whole bit. Yeah, I thought I was Mr. Joe Cool with the mullet. Yeah.
Well, that was everybody. So.
Yeah. All right. Oh, here's a great question. How can we see your work? Love to support the cause.
Yeah, I have it on stories right now. I've been sharing like pieces that I'm working on, so updates throughout the process. But
So on Instagram, right? Instagram stories?
Yeah, it's on Facebook too. But I do have a couple kind of albums, I guess, on both Instagram and Facebook. So I can send a link, or I can put a link in the comments of this live later. If you guys want to see some.
Yeah, because I love that idea, like the one with Barry there. That's a pretty cool idea. That's kind of unique, right? Like nobody would have thought of that as a Christmas gift. That's fantastic.
Yeah, Yeah, most people get their pets. That's the most common, and then a lot of grandparents. That's also a regular one that I do.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. So we touched on last week. We talked about the whole Chicago Blackhawks incident with how they didn't report and everything. Now we've got a new. Have you heard what's happening with the Pittsburgh Penguins?
No,
So
I don't really follow that.
I won't go into all the details, but the Pittsburgh Penguins minor league team, I think in Wilkesboro, Pennsylvania. So they had a head coach and an assistant coach. The assistant coach was married. The head coach, the assistant coach, and the assistant coach's wife all went out to dinner one night. Had too many adult beverages, and when the assistant coach got up to go to the men's room, left his wife at the table. The head coach sexually assaulted the wife. They're all drinking. So now this part I don't totally understand, but the story goes that they then got in the car to go home. The head coach told the assistant coach to get in the front seat and drive, and kept the assistant coach's wife in the back seat with him, where he assaulted her again in the car. So they got home. The wife obviously told, I don't know how the husband didn't know, but either way, he didn't supposedly. And she told the husband what happened. He then went and confronted the head coach. He claimed he was totally drunk, didn't remember what happened. They went on. The assistant coach reported it to the Pittsburgh Penguins, and they told him not to do anything. That they wanted to keep it quiet. So it ended up the husband and wife both said no, that's not going to cut it. So they reported it. The team then fired the assistant coach. They claimed it was because of COVID reasons. They had to cut costs, but I mean, coaches weren't getting cut. So we have another case, unfortunately, in the NHL where not only was it a sexual assault, but it was the way it was reported or not reported after was the disturbing part. So
yeah, that's yeah.
So just so you don't know, I'll just so you don't know, everybody. If most people that are watching the show know your story, but again, we don't have to go into all details. Joe was in an abusive relationship many years ago, and ultimately found the courage to leave that relationship with $300 in her pocket. Had to sleep in a tent for 7 months, all those things. And so she's been very inspirational to other people, other particularly women, but other people in general, to leave abusive relationships. So that's why we discuss that, because it really is pertinent to Jill's life. So
yeah, these are the things like that. These are the reasons people just don't report it.
Yeah.
And why people get away with it, and why then people think that it's okay to do it, because they, in theory, believe that they're going to get away with it. The amount of people that I know that have gone through this, and personally, like, I never reported the person that I was in a relationship with, because it's still that he said, she said thing. And I didn't necessarily have, or feel I had any sort of proof or evidence. Right. And unless there's full on proof in some way, nothing's happening. You're just going to end up in this process that is going to be hell. And you're 98% likely to lose, and not gain anything at all out of it, except for more hurt and pain. It's so flawed. The amount of times that, like, it's not like I get grabbed all the time. Women get grabbed all the time. Like, you go, basically, I would say a good, like, 80% of the time, if you're a decent looking chick and you go out, no matter what you're wearing, like, I just wear jeans and a tank top all the time, or shorts and a tank top all the time, 80% of the time I get grabbed in some way. It's not like I can go and report every one of them. Like, and then there's one example that I really think of, where I got grabbed and I got mad. I ended up walking away right away, and then I knew the person who did it, this old guy, and he was outside after having a smoke. So I went and confronted him. I'm like, don't you ever fucking touch me like that again. And he looked at me, and he's with a chick standing there, like a woman. She doesn't say anything. And he says, oh, you must be on your rag. And I'm like, no, I'm pissed off because you just fucking groped me. Nothing gives you that right. And this woman didn't say a thing. And I'm like, how? Like, come on. Like, and I told my friends were livid. I told my friends afterwards because they were like, "What were you doing outside?" And there were two guys, and they're like, "We're gonna fucking kick that guy's ass." Like, don't bother. It's not worth it for one. But yeah,
I know.
I don't care if you've had a couple drinks. Like, if I'm mad about it, don't go fucking blaming some natural thing that happens because I'm a woman. That has nothing to do with me getting pissed off because you just grabbed me. How about I walk up to you and grab your fucking junk? How's that gonna feel? I'm serious. Like,
I know.
If I and grabbed their junk, like, what's gonna happen, right? Like, nobody's gonna enjoy that.
I know. Don't you think a part of it is too, like you just said, like the woman standing there not doing anything, and just in general, like, you know, you think about this Pittsburgh stuff, the Chicago stuff. You know, I go back to when Sheldon Kennedy, and it happens, and it's happened so much all the time in so many different ways. I think it's a matter of educating people more that, like everybody around, that it's not all right to just sit there and watch that happen. First of all, the person shouldn't do it. It's not all right to just accept it, that it's gone on. We need to all step in and help each other. That's why I was hoping with the NHL, and it doesn't look like they're doing that much right now. And who knows what happens. I just hope that they felt like, okay, this is an opportunity for them to really make a difference, to educate people that, you know, somebody does come to you with a report of some kind of abuse, you take it very seriously. You take it to the authorities. You do the right thing with it. And it just feels like, and I know what's going to happen. And I had a show this morning where we talked about it. And I'm not blaming the NHL in this sense. They've got a business to run, but they're hoping this goes away. And I'm hoping it never goes away, right? I hope it's something we continue to talk about, that it's like, you know, people need to be educated.
There's some, like, I guarantee that somebody on whatever the board or whatever immediately said, well, she was probably asking for it.
Oh yeah.
That's the comment. Like, oh, well, what was she wearing?
Yeah. I know.
Like, oh, she was drunk too. Yeah. Like, all those, it doesn't change anything. How, like, guys can walk around with no shirt on, in shorts all the time, and it's still not acceptable for us to go up and grab them. And yet a girl walks around in a skirt and a tight shirt, and it's acceptable because she's dressed a certain way. Like, there's so many things flawed with that. Like, I know guys get assaulted and all that side of things too, and it's even harder for them to come forward. But the fact that something that happens so much to women is essentially normalized, and a lot of times, like, looked up upon by other bros when they see their, like, the more a guy gets with girls, he's not a whore or a slut. He's commended for being like a great bachelor, and yet a woman goes and sleeps with a few guys and she's a fucking slut or a whore. Like, how is that okay? And we say it to each other, like, we as females say that to other females too. In high school, especially, like, you hear that somebody has dated 5 different guys in high school, whether they've slept with them or not, and the other girls around her calls her a slut. And yet the guy on the main jock or whatever, he's actually going around sleeping and probably raping a whole bunch of women. Sorry to be judging, but it happens far too often. And he's getting high fives by the whole team. Like, it's so ridiculous that we think it's acceptable in some way.
Yeah. And, you know, like, go back to the whole reporting the abuse problem too. I had a very nice conversation with a friend of mine, and we were on opposite sides of this. He brought up facts where some women in the past have falsely accused people of a sexual assault. And he said, well, there should be some punishment for him. I said, well, Ron, if you start to punish a person, like you said before, it's so hard to prove this stuff. But not just women, if in this case, will then just not come forward anymore, because they're going to say, well, nobody's going to believe me, and then I'm going to get charged with some crime because I can't prove that this guy did what I really know he did. Right. So, I
mean, there's liars everywhere, so it's hard to stop that. It sucks, and it does make it even harder for people that actually have it happen. But yeah, like, I don't know, like, don't do that.
You can't. There's no way. There's no way. You can't. Yeah, you can't make it harder for women, and you say men too. You can't make it harder for the person that's abused to come forward. You have to make it easier. And I just think it's incumbent on us as as adults in particular, to make it easier to help people. You don't have to hold some position to be able to do it. Like one of the guys in the Chicago case, who's an assistant general manager, is Kevin Shavel-Dayoff, and he's as a general manager in Winnipeg now. And he didn't get punished at all because he told the league that, listen, I was assistant general manager. My boss told me he was going to take care of it. Well, that's all right to start with. But then when he saw that this coach that had done the abuse was still part of the organization, was still celebrating the Stanley Cup win, was getting his trophy, his day with the trophy, his ring and everything, he still didn't do anything. Well, I don't think you can just say, well, my boss say take care of it. Go to the police anonymously if you have to. Like, do something. You're a human being, and somebody else has been abused, and ultimately another person got abused again because of their inaction. So, yeah, I think all of us need to do a better job of just like, this is an important subject. I just, after knowing you and I've gone through the Sheldon Kennedy thing and watching this stuff again, I'm going, it's good. We're going to go through the same pattern where people just stop talking about it and it just continues to happen. So,
yeah, I think like things like that where people aren't know and aren't doing anything about it in some way, that when it comes to murder, if you know who did it or are questioned by the police and you lie about it, you can get charged with what? Contempt? That you can actually get charged with being an affiliation in some way, withholding evidence in some way. And yet when it comes to this, it isn't treated the same way. Well, it is the same.
Oh, totally. Well, yeah. And that's the thing, Joe. A lot of people don't see the damage that it does to people, right? Like they're unaware. And once you see the damage, like the long-term effects on people, it's just like, yeah.
That's something that definitely I agree that somehow needs to be shown a lot more, because lots of people do that whole, we'll just get over it. Oh, it happened when you were a little kid. Like, okay, you've healed, like your body's not damaged, whatever it is. Like it doesn't matter about that. Literally, like when it comes to the abuse that I took, the physical side of it was by far the easiest side to get over. Just because your body, my body's gonna heal, that's fine. It's the the natural instincts that you now have, fear of certain things, certain movements, emotional damage, like so much mental scars, I guess, from those things that don't go away. Your memories don't go away. That's the part that people forget. Like, the physical heals, but your memories are still there of all of the things that were done to you for all eternity.
Yeah. I'll never forget when Sheldon Kennedy asked me to help him go through his situation. I flew out to Calgary, we sat with him and a therapist, and for about 4 hours, he sat there and talked about, gruesome details of what happened to him, physically happened to him. And again, I'm just listening to it. I wasn't part, and just by listening to it, it was just, I felt like I was just totally drained when I left the meeting, like I've never felt before. That, and that's really, I guess, that's the thing, right? It's like it changes you because like, even for me, just hearing it, because now it really, you really see it. You see okay, I didn't know this before. I knew, okay, so you hear the word abuse, but what does that mean to you? And then when you start hearing the details and you see the emotions come out of the person, and I talked to you about this stuff, it's, I think I hate to say it like this, but everybody should get to learn the damage that's done, so that when you think these things are going on, you act more. I think it's, in some ways you feel bad for the people that they're just not aware of what's going on. So,
people, I get was it really that bad kind of thing. Like, well, do you want me to tell you details? Like, let's see. But also, like, who's to judge? To me, it was bad. I've heard other horror stories of abusive relationships that were a hell of a lot worse, but to them it was on the same capacity as what I went through. Like, just like a divorce can impact one person, like being in a car accident can impact another.
It's who's to judge? What's abuse is abuse, right? It should never happen. It should never happen. First of all, unfortunately, the reality is it will continue to happen. But
four out of 5 women are either in an abusive relationship or have been in an abusive relationship. Wow. That's screwed up.
Yeah. So the answer then is, okay, obviously the goal is to stop that abuse from happening, but short of that, it's to make sure it's reported properly, or people have the ability to report it. so that you can get them help and hopefully stop the person that's doing the abuse, right?
I think besides that, I think the hardest thing is that there isn't the feeling of safety to report it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
guy, if you walk into a police station and say, yeah, this person's abusing me, yeah, they'll probably arrest him, but you're not given any sort of feeling of safety or security because you're not given anything other than this person out of your life for maybe a night.
Right.
Realistically, they go to the same tank that somebody who is drunk for a night goes to sit off their stupor, right? Like, you're not given any sort of safety. So why? Because then you're just going to get it a bazillion times worse.
Right.
That's the
So what should happen then is you should be able to go report it to the police. And then I guess for safety reasons, have them be able to go do an investigation, come up with to say, okay, we know that he's doing it, or he or she is doing it, and then arrest them, right? So that they can stay arrested. Is that?
Yeah, but yeah, there's that. But also, like, they'll arrest them, but you're not taken like to a shelter or something, or somewhere that you're going to feel safe. You're just be like, oh, well, he's gone. You're still at your home.
Right.
And hopefully somebody will make you aware of when he's out of jail the next day. So you're not at your home, but likely you're going to be there. So why would you, like, that's the biggest thing. People aren't going to report it if they're still in it and afraid for their life.
Right.
Because you report it, it makes the person way more angry.
Right. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tell you, the subject just, like, there's so many things that just get me the blood pressure boiling. It's first of all, the act of it happening, but it's there's no, like, all the stuff we're talking about. There's the inaction of others to stop it from happening and stop the perpetrator.
Yeah. And there's a part of this conversation that I feel for the others that are around, like the family of that person who potentially know what's going on and trying to help the person. I can't imagine that feeling, like the feeling my parents had an idea something was going on and they didn't know what to do, because if they said something, I could potentially cut them out of my life out of anger. Especially if maybe they were wrong. But yeah, also, like, how do they help? That's the hardest part. And I don't really know the best way. My parents, I think they probably did potentially what was best. Was they would still call, and it was always, are you okay? And are you happy? They always asked that. And of course I was lying all the time, but I mean, in a sense, sometimes I still found happiness. And but they didn't know what else to ask or what else to do. But because they asked those things and were still there, I knew that I still had their support, and I knew that I still had them in some way. It was just, you're blinded by, and you're manipulated to not really see and cut out everybody anyways. So
and do you think part of this too, like you said you went through it sometimes thinking it was partly your fault too, right? Like, why is this happening? Am I the one? And make it happen.
Well, that's yeah. You do think that. You're like, well, why would they react like that way? But also, like, you can view this as like a predator and a prey, right? The predator's not going to go after the healthiest deer. They're going to go after the one that is showcasing some sort of maybe illness or weakness in some way, so that it's easier for them to attach themselves to him. So in some way, it's that, like, he kind of started breaking me right at the get-go. And I think it was probably, whether it be subconscious to him or actually, like, kind of a manipulative sort of idea, to see, I think, if he can get me to, like, to be that person, that he can have control or manipulate in the way that he wants, to be the person that he wants. Which, it could be a subconscious thing. Who knows? It's like, I'm not in that person's mind. I don't know if it's a planned thing or how it works, but if you view it like that, like a predator going after
Yeah.
their prey, they're going to go after the type of
Right.
person, or they're going to end up with the person that they can take
I want to
down.
put this comment up here by one of our listeners, and I want to ask you a question. So, Bill listens to us all the time. My daughter knows I would maim her boyfriend if he ever put a hand on her. Do you think that is part of it too? That if, like in your case with your guy you were with, if he thought that, what are you doing? You undressing in the car?
I just got really, it's like it's pouring rain, so it's super
Oh,
humid in the car.
oh, okay.
And my hands are getting
What are you, what are you
holding the
doing?
phone up, so you're now gonna have to look at me through the
All right. All right, we're almost done, anyways. But okay, so do you think it changes if the perpetrator knows that there's like the father, the dad, the brother, or whatever is going to come and knock him out? I mean, is that
A big thing for me was this is somebody that I care about that's doing
yeah,
these things, and to me, I'm convinced that I love this person.
right,
So I don't want something bad to happen to them. I don't want them to go to jail. I don't want somebody to hurt them. So to speak out about what's going on, you basically know, like if I were to tell when my brother asked for details,
yeah,
so when I a year later did this cross Canada trip, um, and sat down with my brother on one occasion, and then my parents on another, I explained that I was in an abusive relationship because I hadn't really said that to them before. And I told them that if they feel they need to know details, they just have to ask me. But I'm not just going to sit here and spew them all out because it's not fair. And I don't want you
right,
to have basically the trauma because I've dealt with it. I'm okay. It's going to be fresh for you and it's going to hurt you. And my brother
right,
needed to know. So he asked. And of course, I shared with him. And he was ready. He went completely red and he was ready to get on a plane and fly out
yeah,
and like murder this guy. So imagine if
yeah,
you're in that relationship and you say anything to anyone, that's that another added part of fear that
yeah,
you're already
yeah,
overloaded with fear
right,
and anxiety and every emotion, but also completely emotionless.
right.
That you're not
So,
going to
okay,
add
just to go right, just to go through that. So, if you had told your brother, for example, in that case, it would have been more, and you're still living there, would have been more fear.
oh,
Okay, what's my brother
somebody,
going to do now?
yeah, somebody would have come. Like if I
Yeah,
told my parents what was going on, they would
yeah,
have been out there in a second and they would have arrived and they would have either killed the guy or they would have arrived with the cops or it
yeah,
would have not gone well. And I would
right,
have been upset because this is somebody that I essentially
right,
love.
yeah,
Um, and I don't want pain to them. So it's like, I don't say the person's name ever. I
right,
mean, people could figure it out. Um, but I don't go saying the person's name out of like I know that me coming out that I was in an abusive relationship has hurt him because he what people told him that said that I was in an abusive relationship. Um but um but I'm like yeah, I don't want
yeah. I would have.
supposed
Do
to
you
get
think that's
help because of that, but
right? Right. I think that's part of why he was able. He felt like he could get away with it because he knew you and knew that you didn't want him to get hurt. Like you'd almost protect him.
well that's yeah, that would be kind of that part of that
Yeah.
predator prey and then that
Yeah.
manipulation, being able to make this person like make me respect him in a way that I am always looking up to. So I would never do
Right.
anything. I'm always every time he did something to me, I was the only one that ever went and apologized. I
Yeah.
was apologizing like I did something to make you do this to me. I'm sorry. Like I'm sorry that you reacted that way,
Yeah.
kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
yeah. I'm still dealing with. I'm still really really bad for that. Like when somebody gets angry, for me saying something very simple like do you mind doing the dishes and they lose their shit, um I'll apologize for asking if they can do their dishes, like
Yeah.
something that makes sense, like because I still have that real like I don't want to cause confrontation, and if
Yeah.
the person's now angry at me for asking something simple
Right.
or saying
Right.
no, I'm still apologizing. It's definitely something I'm working on
Yeah.
still.
That's who you are. I mean, you can't beat yourself up over it. But here, here's the good thing, and I like this comment right here. So, Jill, so sorry for what you've gone through, but very happy of the woman you have become. So I think that's a fantastic statement there. So, um, I didn't. I feel bad. Is this? I mean, do you feel like talking about this stuff like publicly like this I mean, obviously it's going to help other people, right? Right. That is the goal that you talk about. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm fine. The fact that like I know a lot of people can't talk about what they've been through
Right.
because that person could come and get them in some way or
Right.
out of just fear. So the fact that I don't have that fear and I'm not worried about the person, and I have to push that aside, those feelings that
Mhm.
might hurt or how that other person might feel by me talking
Right.
about it. Because yeah, it's important. People need to
Yeah.
hear it. Like we were talking about, like it needs to be that kind of stigma around these things, these
Yeah.
hard conversations. The reason we're so uncomfortable about talking about them is because we don't talk about them.
Yeah.
So we're not
Totally.
comfortable.
Right. And that's weird too. Like this is a topic that we should be talking about: abuse of women, kids, men, boys, whatever it is, and not only the abuse, but the ability for the perpetrator to get away with it too. Right. To me, I know you feel the same way. It's kind of mind numbing that it's going on so much, and again, we're gonna see it here with the Chicago case. We're gonna see it with Pittsburgh stuff. It's like, and it's like, okay, let's sweep this under the rug. Let's move on with things. And as long as we don't see it, it doesn't happen, right? Well, it is happening. It's happening all the time, and yeah.
Yeah. It's funny that we're having this conversation because I was just talking to my friend who I'm going to see, and about I guess it was yesterday. I went for a walk, and I had this overwhelming feeling that I need to write one of the incidents that happened, write it out and
Right.
share it. And I don't know why. I mean, I've thought about kind of sharing some of it before, but it was like a really overwhelming sense of like I feel like I need to write this out and share it.
Yeah.
Um, but we're him and I are about to go when I get out there. We're going to chat about it, and I'm going to share with him what it is and
Right.
see. But there's that thought of like, okay, well, me sharing this, there's a reason for sharing it. For
Right.
one, like there's
Right.
a lesson kind of within it, of course, but it's like not a fun experience, and it's not going to be
Right.
fun for people to read. And
Right.
there's that like this is going to hurt some people to read this. Um,
Right.
so is it worth it? Should I share it
And
because
so,
it's
what
going
would
to
be the
cause?
goal then? What would be the goal then, Jill? Is to like we're talking, make sure people understand what's going on out there.
Yeah, I don't like. I think because I think to make it more poignant of um to I don't know, to stop that sort of self-judgment when you've been in something like that, but also
Right.
the judgment of others that does
Right.
happen. Um
Oh, totally.
and like the a big thing is that you judge yourself of like, yeah, you think that it's your fault or
Yeah.
like I in this case of what I want to share, in two instances in that relationship, I fought back twice. Um, and it's so little what I did, but those are the two things that I hold the most is that I reacted to try to get away essentially like a self defense, and that's um, of course that didn't go over well, and of course I immediately yeah. Anyways, um, but out of this incident, which is like the worst one I experienced, the most terrifying for me, the hardest part that I think about is the fact that my action in it, because I'm not one that I don't want to hurt other people, and yet I tried to fight, but I tried to fight
Right.
back, um, and so it's that
So,
like
are you doubting the decision to fight back?
well no it's not doubting it, it's that part of like it's not regret, but that's like it's that funny shitty like that mental side, that mental game that people aren't aware of is that
Right.
for me that's because that's not my human nature to fight or hurt somebody in some
Right.
way, that's what I hold on to out of all of the things that were done. I
Right.
hold on most to me trying to protect myself,
Yeah.
and having to basically hurt the person kind of thing, and that then yeah, and then the reaction after, the whole incident of like forgiving the person right away and me
Yeah.
for what they did. There's like, it's just that trying to explain more the mental game that the toll that it takes,
Yeah.
so that others understand that it's not the like what that person did to me, it's the mental stuff of like my reaction or like
Right. So,
where it took place,
yeah.
things like that.
So, and it's because there's so many people just gonna say, well, why didn't you just leave? Right? Why didn't you just walk out the door or whatever? Well, it's not that easy, right? And so I guess if you can get that message across by writing that to show people that, yeah, and I think I think I know you well enough to know it's like you can't even blame other people for not understanding because they haven't lived through it. Like
Yeah.
when talking about the stuff with you, or when Sheldon Kennedy first came to me with this stuff, I had no clue. I didn't, abuse was a word
Yeah.
to me. I didn't know anything else at all. Once you start telling me stories and you tell me stories and stuff, then now you like for people to say, why didn't this happen? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like you can't say that because every situation is so different. You don't know what's going on in the person's mind. Yeah.
I think that whole why didn't leave, that instance that I feel like sharing about was the one time in 5.5 years in my entire life actually that I called 911, and my phone was then smashed and nothing happened. So of course, why am I ever try again when it resulted in a lot worse scenario for me, because that person knew that I was trying to get away essentially and get help, and nothing came of it for me. I didn't. So I think like that kind of eye-opening side of like, it's not that easy. It's not that easy to just call 911. And yet by the time they gotten there, if anyone did actually come, what would
Right. And like you said before, by the act of calling 911 probably made it worse, right? He got more angry.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well.
So yeah. So I'm kind of trying to figure out whether to share it or how to go about sharing it.
What if I'm just throwing ideas out there?
I also
what if
don't really, sorry?
What's that, Bill?
I was just gonna say, it's one of those things. I don't really want my family to necessarily read it, but I want anybody that does read it to understand that it's one of those things. Like, I've dealt with it. I'm the person that I am because of these things. It's not, I'm not sharing it because to show like that I'm some sort of victim in some way, but but for everybody else, that's basically fresh trauma for them when it's old for me.
What if you, and I'm just throwing this out there, what if you wrote how you felt about this without going into all the details of what the physical act was, if you want? I don't know. Maybe so. It's just because what we're talking about now, I think, is something that is valuable for people to hear about how it seems so easy on the outside just to leave, but you talk about all the feelings you had of fears and everything, and like you said, trying to call 911 didn't help nothing. So then later on, you're thinking, why am I going to try again? Nothing's going to happen, right? I think worse.
Yeah.
Jillian A. Brown. All right. So we're going to wrap up. So obviously you can see this fantastic person, been through a lot of stuff, but she's out there, instead of living the victim life, she's out there trying to help other people. Again, we'll post, Barry Shelley asked if he could post I think it's how to get to your pictures and everything too. You're okay with that, right? If Barry promotes how to get to your pictures. Yeah. Good.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah. Thanks,
so
Barry.
she's got Barry Shelley, the Jillian A. Brown fan club there right up in Cooperstown, New York. Dude, I didn't post those pictures where he made the fan club of the Jillian A. Brown fan group. You get that. Yeah. All right. So Barry, he has posted here how you can get to your photography. Thanks, Barry, very much. Barry's a great man. I tell you, he's got a huge heart. Like I told you, when I first met him, all I did was sign some autographs for him, and he sent me this patch from his uniform that he'd worn for 20 years. And his wife was telling me how emotional he was when we got all the stuff back and that. And I really didn't, do that much, but he was a great guy. He's got a huge heart. So good man. A lot of good. You know what? It's funny. There's so many we hear all the bad stuff, right? There's so many bad things happening, the abuse and politicians and all this kind of stuff. But there's so many great people out there too, right? I mean, there's far more fantastic people. We just don't hear about all these fantastic people like we hear about all the bad stuff too. So
yeah, the news, stay out away from the news. Like it's completely for one biased, but it's always negative. You feel like you're depressed and have mental health. Well, don't go and watch the news.
Totally. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, I think we're kind of lucky, people like you and I, that we live this really positive life and when we do this stuff, like that's how we met each other, right? I mean, Ryan Phillips had us post a video, and that's how we met each other. And it just, I think your life goes the same way. Like the two roommates you've got now, we just keep, if you live a real positive, helpful life where you're helping other people, you end up meeting poor people like that, and your world becomes better now because you got all these positive people that are out doing things and building hotels up in space and all, growing from 6 foot feet to 6'4". That's classic. I've never heard that before. I'm going to give them a hard time about that. That's good. That's really good. So, all right. Well, great to see you again. Have a good trip. Listen, you do what your heart tells you to do as far as writing that stuff. I think the people that I've met that have followed you, they'll back you no matter what you do. So you'll do the right thing.
Yeah. I'm gonna share it with my friend who I'm going to stay with, and who's gonna come stay with me too. I'm gonna actually share it with him and see what he has to say about it. And if there is any sort of benefit, I don't know. Like, he already suggested that I just write it out just for me. I
agree with that 100%. I told you that about me writing a book. And I think everybody should write a book. Whether you're going to publish it or not, you should write a book. You should get all your, like, there's things that I didn't even think about my past that made me who I am from writing a book. So I agree with that 100%. You should write it no matter what. It's what you do with it after that it's up to you. So okay. All right.
Sure. Okay,
see you
Tom.
next week. See you.
Yeah,
next week.
Great day.
You too.
Bye.